everybody. Happy Saturday to you, and welcome to Book Chat. I am your host, author Vivian E. Moore. I'm glad to be broadcasting with you again on this beautiful Saturday. And I'm so glad that we all survived the horrible storms that have just been raging back to back. Um, I'm just glad that we all made it through, and and just pray that we continue to be safe. And again, my heart and my prayers are still with those who lost loved ones during the hurricane in the Caribbean, and also in Florida, and everywhere that the path of the hurricane took. My prayers are still with those who are still rebuilding, and some that are still without power. And I just ask that you would be in prayer for them as well. Okay, so before we get to today's show, of course, I always want to give you information on how to reach out to me. And of course, you can start by listening to the show that is broadcast on Spreaker every Saturday at 6 p.m. And that web address is https://www.spreaker.com/user/author Vivian E. Moore. You can also like me, follow me on Facebook, which is https://facebook.com/Vivian E. Moore. You can also just, if you want, if you're interested in me as an individual and my likes and dislikes, you can check out my Pinterest page, which is https://www.pinterest.com/Vivian Moore 48. You can also like me, follow me on Twitter, and my Twitter handle is God's Property 46. You can also look me up on Instagram, which is at https://Instagram.com/God's Property 51. I would love for you to check out my website, leave comments, just leave me a note out there just to let me know that you did go visit the website and took a look at it. And that is https://VivianMoore.wixsite. That's WIXSITE.com/author Vivian Moore. And also, you can look at my blogs. I have quite a few of them out there. Actually, it's the transcript from the shows that I do every Saturday, and I upload them directly after the live show, so you can check out the transcript of what we've talked about on today's show, and that is at vivianemore.blogsite.com. And also, you can check out my author's page that is on Amazon, and you can check me out on iTunes as well. You can also get the blog, the show, Book Chat with Author Vivian E. Moore. That is also on iTunes if you have an iOS device. All right, so now that we've gotten all of that out of the way, let's get to today's show. And the title of today's show is The Exit Plan. And the topic is why plotting the perfect ending for your story is important. When we usually think of an exit plan, it is associated with a sign that directs us out of a building, a door, war in some cases, and in this case, story development. An exit plan is crucial to any story, and sometimes more important than what comes before and is actually in the middle of the story. And I know we don't always think of the conclusion before the first chapter is written, but we should. Now, I'm one of those types of writers who sometimes I see the end of the story before I even start writing the beginning of the story, and that's a good thing, because you know which direction to take the story before you even get to the end, because you know how it's going to work out. And it's just good to have a good exit plan, to know when to end the story, how to end the story, what note to end it on. It's just vital to have an exit plan in place. And how a story ends is also vital to the plot line of any book. Before you write a paragraph, you should have some idea of how you want the story to conclude. And sure, most have happy endings, and then there are continuations. And nevertheless, no matter how many sequels develop over time, the ending is inevitable. And there are many ways to achieve this. And because we all love plot lines, we all love plot twists, and just something unexpected. Regardless, you still must have an exit plan in place. Now, I read a book yesterday, and I invested about 6 hours into the story. And actually, it was an audiobook, but still, to me, that's like reading. I'm listening while somebody else is narrating a story, but to me, it's still reading. And and it just left me devastated because of how the story ended. And I mean, it started out like really, really good. And then toward the end, it was as if the writer decided to use a plot twist. And I'm like, why did you wait to the end? Why didn't you do this like somewhere midways in the book? But they did it at the end, and it didn't really make sense to me at all why they did this, because I'm like, why this? I can't even explain it. Anyway, the entire premise of the story was misleading, and after this happened, I just I was just so disappointed. I just really, really was. And and the story was listed under fantasy, slash romance. So I'm thinking, okay, well, you know, then this is what it's going to be about. It's going to have a little fantasy in here, and and that's what my mind was set on because of the way the premise or the synopsis of the book was presented. That's what I was thinking, that it was going to be. But let me just tell you, it wasn't. And so romance was the only part of that they got right. And like I said, everything else just went south after that. But one guess is that the writer just did not show a great exit plan that could have possibly won over more readers if this had happened. And I know there are many types of plot lines, such as the most popular ones, which would be resolved, because we all are familiar with that, and unresolved as well, and implied, and then, of course, the plot twist. And these are some of my favorites. But if we fail to engage the readers by having a riveting plot line, then we've wasted valuable time writing the book, and then for the person who's also reading the book. And one way to look at exit plans in story creation is to think of it as you would for your house during an emergency. I got tongue tied there for a second. That's not good. We all want to plan for disasters, whatever they may be, and because they're necessary for survival. Because we just never know what's going to happen. We put smoke detectors in our houses, and we make sure that we change out the batteries every season. If we have children, and if we have, even if it's a single story or a double story house, we always map out a plan of exit in case of fire or disaster, whatever it may be, whatever the case may be. We always do that. We always know that this is where we're going to start, and this is where we're going to end up. So so you'll have an exit plan, and that is how you need to look at it when you're writing. For just in case basis. That's how you should look at it. We all, you see it in everywhere exit plans or exit signs are posted, And they say in case of fire, don't use elevators, and we've seen that in mostly in all types of buildings. And the way out is visible and it's more clearly, so there is no confusion in times of trouble. You know how to get out of the building. So, using this same logic, you should know how to get out of the story. Um, so, if an exit plan is essential to real life situations, how much more important is it to the life of a great writer? I just ask you that question. You can usually tell when a writer doesn't know how to end a story. It goes on indefinitely, and you get a deluge of ins and outs and twists and turns. Um, and finally, you just stop reading because the story has lost all direction. And exit plans are essential to the daily lives of every individual as much as it is to a writer. So, plan carefully, know the ending from the beginning, and I promise you, everything will turn out perfectly. All right, guys. So that's basically all I have for you today. And I just thought that it was important um, to to know how to exit a story. And I just wanted to give you that little tidbit that you could use when you're writing your stories, or if you just want to pass the information on to someone else. It's just vital to know how to navigate through the stories that you're writing, and how to end them. Because I promise you, I have read a lot of stories that didn't end well at all. And the book that I read yesterday was a prime example of that. And as a writer, I try not to do that. I try to make sure that my plot line is clear, that you know what's going on, even if you don't know how it's going to end. But basically, when it does end, the ending makes sense. So, and I think that's what I had the biggest issue with the book that I read yesterday, was that the ending made no sense to me at all, and I just felt cheated, and I don't like that. Well, I hope that everyone is having a wonderful weekend. As I said, the weather is just gorgeous, and at the beginning of the week, we got just a taste of fall. And a couple of times I was tempted to turn on some heat because I was actually cold. But what I did instead was just put on a sweatshirt and some socks, and so that helped a lot. And turn the air off, so that helped tremendously. But tomorrow is our worship day, and we're having our annual worship in the park tomorrow. And so I'm looking forward to that. It's been 9 months since I've been telling everybody about it at church. And so, that's long enough to have a baby. So now it's time for that child to be delivered. And so we are having that tomorrow from 10 until 3. For those of you who are familiar with me and familiar with my church, you are invited to come out and worship with us, and enjoy the food that will be served directly after service. So take somebody to church with you, so they can get the message, so they can hear the word being taught, preached to them, and tell somebody that you love them, because tomorrow is not promised. I love you. I hope you love me back. And until you hear my voice again, God bless you and goodbye.